Hey y'all, I'm James Wright, and welcome to the shop. Tonight's starting off a bit fun. My wife, who is normally here and will be here in a moment, just before we got started, had a call from work, so she is running off to take care of that. So she'll be back in a couple of minutes here. But we are live, so we're going to go ahead and do this. This is the monthly Q&A. I try and do this once a month. I do the monthly Q&A once a year. And we do it normally on whichever Tuesday ends in a teen. But in this case, we ran into a problem last week, so we bumped it off to this week. For those of you who are wanting to hear about the news, we have a few things coming up. Let's see, September 1st through the 2nd, so this is just 2 weeks away, or a week and a half away, is Handworks in Amana, Iowa. It is the big woodworking event. If you're going to be there, I'm looking forward to seeing you. If you can be there Friday at 3 p.m., Rex Kruger and I are going to be doing a joint meet and greet, and we're going to be meeting at the Brew House at 3 p.m. On Friday, the 1st of September. So looking forward to seeing you. After that, there is a meet in Frankfort, Illinois on the 10th. I don't know if I'm going to be able to make that one. I think I'm going to, but I'm not 100% sure. Then there is one in Raleigh, North Carolina on the 16th. I'm going to be flying out for that one. And then we are back in Iowa on the 28th through the 30th, and this is the MWTCA National event. It is the largest tool meet in the world, so looking forward to that. If you throw questions into the chat, I'm going to try and catch them, but as my wife is out, it should be kind of interesting as we get started. So I'm going to try and read through those. But yeah, if you have questions, put them in the chat, and when my wife gets back in here, she'll start collating. For some reason, file handles have been coming up a lot in the discussion recently in the YouTube videos, and I've been having a lot of fun with them and showing off different types and different styles. But tonight, let's see, who was it? It was Opossum Piper. Mentioned, all of the ones you're showing have these spiky tangs.
What'd you call me?
Oh, that too. What do you do about a beaver tail tang? And I said, I've never heard of a beaver tail tang. And he quickly emailed me a picture, and I took a look at it, and yeah, they're interesting. They look like they're a Nicholson file. Rather than it coming to a sharp point, it actually is outline of a handle, but the thickness of a file with a hole at the end for hanging it. And I thought that was kind of cool. I've never seen those before. So yeah, if you've seen those or have any information, I'd love to find out. I would assume you could make a handle sandwiching it just like you would with knife scales, but I've never seen it before. It's kind of interesting to see a file that comes with a handle. Weird. I haven't put any of the questions in yet, except for the first one.
Except for the beaver tail.
So, yes. Hi, babe.
Hi.
Let's see.
Okay, this is the first. I'm doing 2 jobs at once right now.
Yeah. She's playing nurse and so. Oh, Kenny-Anjanette Horn. Kitty and Jeanette.
Kitty.
What?
It sounds like you keep saying kitty.
Oh, no, I keep wanting to say Kitty
You just said
and
it.
Jeanette. Yeah, thanks for the super chat. Sarah will get you.
Oh, hang on. I'll get the.
Let her catch up. Let's see.
Here, ready? I got one.
Oh, you got it? Okay,
yeah.
cool.
Nicholas Todd asked how to use an undersized mortise chisel if I don't have the right size.
Ooh, that's a really good question. I can do a video on that one sometime. I can make a good short. So yeah, usually when you want to make a mortise, you find a matching mortise chisel and you chop it out. But what happens if, here I've got, do I have a big one in here? Yeah, I don't have anything bigger than that. So let's just explain this. So if I've got here a mortise that I need 3/4 inch wide, but I only have a 1/2 inch chisel, how do I chop it out? And in that case, some people will say move over to one side and chop out that side, and then pare the other side wider. So I can grab a larger chisel and then come in and pare the walls wider and wider and wider and wider until I get to my size. I usually say split the difference and go down the middle and just stay away from those lines as long as possible. And make your mortise just like normal, but don't touch the lines on the other side. Then you can come into the chisel and pare back this way until you're at your line, and then pare back this way until you're at your line. So it's a little bit more of a process. And there's more chances for messing up because anytime you are sneaking up on a line with a chisel, you are running into the risk of going too far. So take your time with it, but yeah, I've done that quite a bit. Although most of the time, I pick my tenon based on the chisels I have at hand to make sure that it will match. And so I choose my sizes depending upon what chisels I have ready to go. So that's an interesting question. I might have to do a video on that. Thanks. What's next?
I don't remember if I said this joke recently, but we're going to go with it because I tried to delete them after I use them. You ready?
Yes.
What do you get when you cross a policeman and a skunk?
What?
Law and odor.
No, I did not go that direction.
All our non-Americans, it's a TV show. All right, you ready for another question?
Yeah, what we got?
Captain Hokey says, what in your experience is the selection for user quality tools at Handworks? I'll capitalize.
Handworks is a little bit less about antique tools. It is more about new tools, particularly artisan-made tools, or hand tools designed for the fine woodworker. So you're going to see Lee Nielsen, you're going to see Veritas, you're going to see Workbench, you're going to see Blue Spruce, all of the modern high-end makers. Blackburn Toolworks should be there. I'm thinking Union Tools should be there. Bad Axe Tools. So you're going to see a lot of these new makers. That's the big majority of it. You will see 2 or 3 used sellers who will bring large amounts out. And so there will be lots of that. If you're looking for the best deals on that, get to it as early as the barn opens, because the deals kind of get picked through, and as the day goes on, there's less and less to pick through. The big thing about Handworks is the demonstrations and hanging out with people and finding other people who are interested in the specific things you're interested in. There's just a lot of that. It's very very fun. But yeah, most of the booths have to do with new specialty tools as opposed to antique tools. If you want antique tools, the MWTCA, that's the one to go to. That is in Des Moines, Iowa. Let's see, at the end of the month. Where to put it? There it is, 28th through the 30th. You have to be a member for that. And if you can, the Thursday morning tailgate event for that is the one to go to. That is when you're going to find the best user tools at the best prices. The tailgate event is the best. It is Thursday morning, though. Usually starts at sun up and then wraps up around 10, 11. Some people will be there until noon or 1. Yeah. If you're looking for antique tools, the Midwest Tool Collectors Association is the one to go to. What's next?
I think I've got them all pulled out. So Kenny-Anjanette Horn said, well, here's the question. So where would we find a schedule for Handworks?
There is no schedule for Handworks. Handworks is a big free-for-all. Everything's happening all the time. The only thing that's scheduled is the keynote speech, which happens Saturday morning, I think at 9 o'clock, and that is going to be Roy Underhill. So yeah, that's it. Everything else is just walk around. It's like a big fair where everything's happening all the time. So there is no schedule. The only other thing I have on the schedule is the meetup with Rex and myself at 3 p.m. on Friday. So yeah, it's one of the things that you're not going to find a map of where everything is. You're not going to find a schedule because it's that whole end of the town is just all hand tools. You walk around in every building and there's different things for display and different demonstrations happening and different makers, and it's all over the place. So you kind of got to hunt around for things, and it's a lot of fun. What's next? Looking forward to seeing you, though. Oh, I got one hair that's bugging me.
One big
mustache hair that won't lay down.
Let's see. Jan, what did Jan have to say? Or Yan? I'm not sure. Jan? What is it? Sometimes with a flatsawn board of ring-porous wood, the ring-porous can be rough like tear-out. Any tips aside from wood filler for making it as smooth as possible?
I don't know if I've really run into that. Can you read that one more time? 'Cause I just want to make sure
Sorry.
I'm understanding.
Sometimes with a flat sawn board of ring-porous wood, the ring-porous can be rough like tear out.
I know what you're talking about now.
Okay.
So let me see if I have anything quite like that, where you have a lot of the cathedrals. This one's kind of close. I try and stay away from flat sawn wood, mostly because the 90s overdid it.
Excuse me, sorry.
Although, if you ask my father loves flat sawn red oak. I think he's a bit crazy.
Yes, he does.
But he loves flat sawn red oak. Sorry, Dad, but you're wrong. Ha! Here, let me bring down to this. So this is flat sawn. This one's white oak. But you can see these big cathedrals here where these all come up like that. So sometimes you have this fast, the hard growth here, the slow growth, is much smoother, and then you've got this out here which is just rougher. And sometimes you can get into it, or it's just it feels far more rough. And unfortunately, that's just one of the characteristics of the wood. If you don't like that, then pick a different wood. Yeah, there really is no way to smooth it out, because that's just kind of a characteristic. As long as you're planing with the grain, you're going to be getting it a lot closer, but yeah, they're always going to be slightly more rough. And sometimes a lot more rough, depending upon the wood and what's running into it. I'm trying to think of anything particular. I mean, the best way to try and mitigate it is, rather than planing it, sand it. Because if you're sanding it, then you're going to be filling pores with dust, and that will smooth it out. Especially if you can sand up to 400 grit or so. That does a lot more pore filling. It'll also accentuate the grain differential when you put an oil finish on it, because it will soak it in farther with all that dust on there. But yeah, it's one of those things that's kind of annoying. Don't use flat sawn grain. But yeah, there's a reason why it's far more affordable than quarter sawn or rift sawn. Yeah, I can't think of a better answer than that right now. Sorry. What's next?
Sorry.
Oh, thou greatest yawner.
I know. Jean-Luc Desselle, what's your opinion on crank neck chisels? Are they necessary for dados, or would a router plane suffice?
Yeah, they most of the time. Actually, do I have any down here right now? For the average joinery work, they're not really necessary. There are very, very few places where they're like, oh yes, that's great. In most cases, the router plane will do it perfectly fine, and actually better than in a lot of things. Especially for dados and grooves where you're trying to get down in there, the router plane is the better choice for that. Crank neck chisels are often also called pattern makers chisels, because you'd have pattern makers that have to do parallel cuts, so the multiple pieces coming together at weird angles, and they need to transition from one across to the other. So they're using a lot of flat surface shearing with the chisels, and having the handle up and out of the way helps out. For those of you who don't know, so you got regular chisel, a crank neck chisel, rather than the handle sticking straight out this way, it kind of comes up and then over. So when you're holding it, your handle is out of the way of the plane of the chisel. But yeah, I've actually never had a project where it was like, ooh, yeah, I need that. There's always been a better tool, but I don't do a lot of pattern making, and that's where they can really shine. So, yeah, sorry. What's next?
Ros Sanctuary asks, can you earn a living building furniture?
Yeah, sure. I know quite a few people who do. The problem is, when you are selling furniture for a living, you have two options. Either, number one, you can mass produce things to produce them efficiently and cheaply. And in that case, you're a little better than a modern cheap furniture shop. Or, number two, you can sell your name. And that's the route most people go. If you have a name that you've developed that people know, people trust, and it is something that you have you have a relationship with the people you're actually working the pieces for. You have something that people know. That's the way that most people go, because then you can increase your prices, you can increase your quality, you can spend more time on every piece, and each individual piece is worth more if you have a name to put onto it, if you have, what's the word I'm looking for, character. Yeah. Can't think of the name, the word for it.
A brand?
Brand, there we are. Yes, if you have a brand that people want. And so you look at some people who go the route of becoming a YouTube personality, and in that case they can sell things more because, ooh, I bought something from Joe Schmo YouTube channel. And sometimes it is you just have a word of mouth in the community where you made a really cool table for someone, and they're showing it off to their friends, and their friends are like, well, I want one. And you can charge that price because you have the quality backing it up. The problem is it takes forever to create that name, that brand, that character. And it takes years to make it. So it's kind of one of those things that if you want to do it, you can. Start off part-time, start off making a few pieces in your off time in between other things, and slowly build it up. And you can do it. It just takes a lot of work. I went a slightly different route. I don't sell the things I make. I teach people how to do it. And so I work with hobbyists. I would consider myself to be a hobbyist. I tell people quite regularly, I am not a fine woodworker. I am not a professional woodworker. I am someone in my shop having fun, and I want to share that enjoyment with other people and show you how you can have fun in the shop. Hobbyist. And so that's the route I've gone. A little bit different. Although, I mean, now, because of the YouTube channel, I probably could make a living selling furniture, but I think I would lose the enjoyment I have in it because I'd be doing it for the money rather than doing it because this is the thing I want to work on right now. So.
You don't need anything else to do, sir.
What's next?
Let's see. James Cary asked, have you seen the Bench Dog #1 plane? I bought one, and it's a pretty good little plane for only $120.
Yes. Most modern makers, if they make a series of plane sizes, they will eventually make the #1. Lee Nielsen does it as well. Veritas did. I don't know if they still do. But it's a novelty thing, and people will use it because it's a fully functional plane. But it's kind of one of those things that really doesn't have a direct purpose or need. The #2 will do all of its functions just a little bit easier. And there's lots of myths and theories about how it was used and why it was used. And honestly, the reason why Stanley made it and sold it is because people would buy it. And we as woodworkers are really kind of, we like those little cute things. They're just kind of nice. And that's why I had this whole shelf over here of small tools. And why I married who I did.
I got picked after the shelf of tools.
Yes. But yeah, I have seen it. It's a cute little tool. What's next?
It's been a while since you've been in the doghouse like that. Hang on. I got lots of questions tonight. Alex Eggers asked, how do you restore your planes by part? Also, what about the paint? I just got 3 of them and I want to restore them.
I have a whole pile of videos on how to restore planes. I have, a while ago I did a series of one that I just cleaned up and got back to use, one that I did a deep clean on it and refixed a few things, and one that I completely stripped down and re-japanned it. And I actually have a video coming out in a couple days where I did this one. This one's, I like this one. So I just finished redoing this one, and yeah, I'm happy with it. He's pretty. This one was a heap of a mess. And so the video on that one should be coming out here very soon. And I actually traded this. One of our watchers contacted the channel and said, hey, I've got this Veritas combination plane. And I've always wanted to have a Veritas combination plane just to have in comparison to the others. And I'll have a couple videos on that. But I've never had the money for it and never really wanted to. And so he said, I'll trade you for something. I said, cool. What do you want? And so I was in the middle of restoring that and said, you want that? And he's like, yeah. So it's one of the things I love about the community is making fun trades. I get a lot of my tools that way. But yeah, if you want to see that, I have quite a few videos on it. What was his? He ended it with a specific question about finish or paint.
How do you store the planes apart, and also what about the paint? He got 3 of them.
What about the paint? The original paint on planes is Japanning. So it's not actually paint. It is asphaltum, which provides the pigment, but also is a binder agent. It is boiled linseed oil, which provides the polymerization, and then turpentine, which thins it down. And then you actually cook it into place, and all of those polymers bind up and become a really, really durable surface that is incredibly strong. But it only comes in black. It's actually one of the reasons why Ford painted their vehicles black. Originally, they were japanned, not painted. When I paint the blue ones, I hit them with a self-etching primer spray paint, and then on top of that, I put on a regular Rust-Oleum spray paint. But I've got videos on all of this if you want to see it. There's a lot more detail on all the pieces in there. What's next?
Warren Munn asked, how would you go and would you try it doing a half lap dovetail except shaped like a jigsaw piece?
Sure. I've done some other weird ones, especially with like bow tie inlay keys. The fun thing about them is you make the tin inside and you lay it on there and you trace it out precisely, and then you chisel it out. If you're working like a puzzle piece, you're having a lot of curves, and so I would want gouges to be able to come down and get at the line. Also, for marking it out, what I like to do is lay down blue tape on it, put the piece on there, and then mark through the blue tape. And so I get the mark into the wood through the blue tape. But then that also means I can peel up the middle, and the blue tape makes it very, very easy to see. I cut this, I don't cut this. But I would do it much like making a bow tie, and cut it down. Yeah, I've never done a puzzle piece particularly. I did a butterfly shaped bow tie. I've done a few other odd ones, but a good set of gouges allow you to get to those rounded shapes where the chisel wouldn't. What's next?
Let's see. Oh, every time I go to talk,
I have that effect on you.
Daniel Grabske, that's a new name. Can you recommend a nice mid-price spokeshave?
Honestly, for spokeshaves, just go get the cheap one. The cheap one on Amazon. The great thing about the Stanley 151 knockoffs is there's nothing to them. The cheapest ones out there actually do really, really good work. So what you really want are the ones that have these thumb screws in the back. And you might need to get some where the iron isn't really nice and sharp, and you'll need to clean that up. But the sole doesn't even need to be flat. It doesn't need to be true and perfect. It just needs to hold it in place and have the ability to adjust it in and out. And that is just really simple. So if you go to my website, I actually have one that I suggest. It's a cheap Junko on Amazon and works great. If you want mid-grade, then the one I would go up to is called Kuntz, Kuntz, I think it is, green. Yeah, it's one of the great things about spokeshaves is get the cheap one. They honestly work great. As long as you don't get one that's hammer adjusted, those can sometimes be a little fiddly. But if you get one like the 151 with the knobs on it, those work phenomenally well. What's next?
Jake Callen asks, should I make or buy my router plane?
Depends on you. I have made probably somewhere around 15 router planes now. And I just keep going back to my Stanley 71. It's just, I love this thing. And I've made some really good router planes. I've made router planes that are just as functional and just as easy to use as this, but I'll still go back to this. There's just something about that thinner metal base that's got the weight on it. It works really, really well. And yeah. But that being said, if I didn't have the money and I was starting back out, and right now, antique 71, you can buy a brand new router plane for almost the same price. So I would probably end up making one and falling in love with it, and then looking at all the router planes as, why would I want that? Because especially if you get like the Paul Sellers kit, it's a bit pricey if you're in the U.S., but it's a really good router plane. Works functionally. Rex Kruger, his kit is really nice, incredibly easy, and you can make it in a matter of a couple hours. I did a couple videos making one a while ago, and I'm trying to, do I have that in here still? I moved it somewhere else. Honestly, out of the ones that I have made, it is my favorite because its adjustment mechanism is so close to the Stanley 71. I think that's one of the things that I love about the Stanley 71 is it's just so easy to adjust, and you can get it exactly where you want, incredibly fast and easy, and it's such a simple device. So I try and find ones that are similar to that. It's one of the things I don't like about the Paul Sellers is the depth adjuster on there. It looks simple, looks really easy, but it is incredibly fiddly and just kind of, I ran into a few things on that I don't like. And then the Rex is hammer adjusted, and I know that drives a lot of people the other direction. So how much money you have? If you've got the money for a new one, buy it. You'll be incredibly happy. But if you don't, then making one yourself. And I've got a couple of videos actually making them out of scrap junk around the shop. You can even make the cutter out of an Allen cutter, but you can buy a new cutter for $15 and make everything else with hardware store parts and scrap wood. So yeah, have fun. What?
I think I've been being punked for a long time.
What?
Because for a long time, I've been staring at this particular name and have said this name many times on lives for questions and stuff. I've always called it Yan because it has like the, what's the word I want to say? The little R with the circle, like it's, anyways. I can't think of the word. It's special. Anyways, and then I was staring at it and I went, oh, it's probably pronounced Ryan. And not once has that individual said anything to me.
Oh, I see with the
yes! I was
trademark.
staring at it. I'm like, it's probably Ryan. And this whole time I've been calling him Yan and letting me. Really? Really?
What's next?
It's just so sad when I realize things. Winter Wizard, what is that? What do they want to know? What would you recommend for a good first project for someone who's just got into hand tool woodworking?
I love this question because I get to annoy the person who asked it. Uh-oh, she's getting called. Does it work?
Yeah.
Honestly, the best project you can start with is the one that intrigues you, the one that you want to build. Because any project out there, you can jump into it. Every project is just a series of steps. And to do the first step, you practice it, and then you do it. And then you find out what the next step in the project is. You practice that, and you do it. And so if you want to build a QnA highboy, go for it. Honestly, it's just a series of steps. And as long as you can break it down and go through it one at a time, conquer that next piece, you can make it happen. Now, I can promise you it won't be the most beautiful thing ever. There'll be gaps, there'll be chunks here and there, and it'll be okay, but it will be perfectly functional. And that's one of the things I love about woodworking is that there is no best way to do it. And the most important thing is that you want to do it. It is something that drives you forward. It is something that makes you want to go back down to the shop because you want to finish this project. You want to complete this task. And so finding something that intrigues you and something that really speaks to you, I think that's far more important than finding something that's an easy project. Yeah. So that's usually my suggestion is find what is intriguing you and jump in, have fun, and realize it's not going to be perfect. No first project is, even if it's an easy, simple thing, it won't be perfect. But it'll be completely functional, it'll be passable, and you'll look back and think, wow, I can do better than that. That's how woodworking works. So yeah, let me go look at the next question since Sarah is having fun. The hospital is full again. So, let's see, that would be, wow, I gotta do this too. Andrew Knowles, Lost Art Press said that the organizers might stop Handworks because it's too much work to schedule. As someone who can't attend this year, I'm worried that, what's your take? Yeah, honestly, it's Benchcrafted that is running it. So they have been the ones who do it in the past. Here, let me move this up for you. Hey, look, I'm here. Yeah, Benchcrafted has run it in the past, and it is a lot of work to put up. And that they were going to have it last year, and they ran into a bunch of problems and just couldn't make it happen in time, and so they bumped it off to this year. And it's something that doesn't bring anything in for Benchcrafted, so why keep doing it? And so if someone else steps in and wants to take it over and make it happen, that would be great. But it honestly wouldn't surprise me if they decide not to do it again. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. So who knows what the future holds? Not me. If I did, I'd be making a lot more money. Fortune telling is a great income source. Let's see. I keep dithering on if I really want a bandsaw as my one major power tool for small garage hobby shop. I know I can resaw a 12-foot beam by hand. I don't need to do it every time. Thoughts? Yeah, if you have one tool, what is that tool? And it depends on what annoys you. What is something that kind of drives you bonkers? For me, if I had to have one power tool in the shop, it would be a thickness planer, because I work with a lot of rough sawn lumber, and I spend a lot of time smoothing boards. And so that's why I end up buying a lot of S2S lumber so that I can have it in the shop and just work at it. But yeah, different strokes for different folks. Some people I'm going to say it's a table saw. Some people I'm going to say it's a bandsaw. Bandsaw takes up a lot less space, and so if you're doing a lot of resawing, bandsaw is phenomenal. If you're ever going to work with sheet goods, though, a table saw or a track saw is an amazing thing to have. So ask yourself, are you spending more time resawing or more time smoothing? Because that may help you determine which one, though different people argue different ways. So super chat from Ryan. LOL, I don't mind Yan. Much better than Brian. All Ryans hate that. Thanks for answering my question. Well, thanks, Ryan. Or Yan. I'll have Sarah give you a joke when she gets back. Let's see. Alex Adams. Alex, Type A Woodworking. Yes, Type A Woodworking. Making an ash TV stand with chocolate-colored Rubio. Ash, sorry, there's a reason my wife reads these. Ash test board barely took the color after 2 coats. I water popped after 200 grit, got the color. Any other ways to get it to take the color? Yeah, I haven't had a whole lot of experience with colored Rubio. I try not to color anything. I like to keep the wood color as natural as possible. So it's not my my forte on that. I'm trying to think through things I've run into though. Especially with ash and hickory, the porous grain will absorb a lot and it draws it in farther. But I found that the slow growth grain really doesn't, and I've come across that on a few stains too. I'm trying to think of anything in particular. I mean, usually when I want to color something, I like to separate the process. Like I made a dining room set and for a couple friends of mine, and they really, really wanted an espresso color on the red oak. And yeah, okay, they want it, so I did that. And so I prefer to stain it once, get the color that I want it, and then go over it with I actually did that one with Rubio Monocoat, the regular. I prefer to separate them to have it all in one, but it is nice to have Rubio Monocoat. I'm trying to think of anything particular to help it get down in there farther. And honestly, I can't think of it. And a second coat's really not going to help you because with Rubio, it just doesn't do that. Yeah. Romcat, can you re-Japan? Let's see, that's at 37. Can you re-Japan? I don't know what you mean by that. Usually, like if you have a plane where the Japanning is starting to come off, usually the best answer is to sandblast it off and then put new coat on there. Because a paint stripper, it will work on Japanning, but it will take a crazy amount of time, and it takes coat after coat after coat after coat after coat of paint stripper. It's usually something around 10 to 15 coats of paint stripper to get the Japanning off. And so usually I'm going to take it to a sandblaster and just grind it off and then recoat on top of that. Or sometimes I will get in there with a high grit sandpaper and scratch it up and just put a coat on top of that. That's basically what I did on this one. I took it to my sandblaster, but the media I had in there wasn't aggressive enough and my compressor wasn't quite strong enough. So I was able to get the rust off, get the gunk off, but it wasn't eating into the Japan as much as I wanted to. So I took a little bit of sandpaper and ground some of that down, and then put the new Japanning on top of that. But yeah, you can re-Japan. Let's see, Luke. Where is a good place to see a lot of different designs of furniture? I'm looking to make shelves and want to see different ways they can be made. Just a second here, 39. Honestly, Google. When I'm researching a project and I'm trying to get some ideas, Google image search is the key thing. Sometimes I'll go down a Pinterest hole, but Google image search is phenomenal. Yeah. Now, if you're trying to figure out how to make the piece you see on there, that is just experience. That is knowing how things go together. How is it actually going to fit from one end to another? What are the stresses on this? What are the forces going to be pushing one way or the other? And how do you counteract that? And the best way to get that information is experience. There are a few museum. Actually, where was that? It was the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. Has a really cool furniture display, and they have several pieces of antique furniture sitting beside it, and then beside that they have an exploded view with all of the pieces of that furniture and all the joinery and how they go together. And it was really fascinating to see how they would have answered some of those joinery issues. But when you're first getting started, one of the things I would suggest is reach out to the community. If you, like on the Wood by Right Hive Mind, I have a group on there, and so sometimes people put on there and they'll put up some plans that they're thinking about making this particular piece, and this joint is causing them issues. How do they put this together? They'll put up some drawings on there and say, hey, what can I do on this? And we can help through and answer some of those problems. But when it actually comes to picking out the piece and figuring out the design, Google image search is most definitely the way to go. Sorry, I got to read through some of this. Warren Munn, Hand Tool Rescue has an amazing video on Japanning. Really, really good. Let's see. Nahid Arkham. What is the best way to make a 45-degree on a thin board? I'm very beginner in trying to make a donkey's ear with hand tools, but I can't just make it precise enough. Any tips? Honestly, perfection is the biggest stopper of getting things done. What's the word I'm looking for? Inhibitor. Sorry, trying to do my wife's job here. Yeah, when making 45 degrees, if they're small 45 degrees, they don't have to be as accurate. If they're bigger, then they have to be far more accurate because there's a longer distance from the fulcrum of measurement. And so that's kind of one of those, how did you actually do it? Like I'd take the piece and put it up in a vise and then take a plane to it and plane it down. Actually, let me come on over and show this. Bring this down. There we go. Woo, hey, gets you clear. Let's do that. There we go. So I would just grab the board. Let me see if I've got a thin piece over here that I can demonstrate this. We've got this pile of scrap down here. Some of it's scrap, some of it's not. Now, I don't have anything thinner than 3/4. Apparently not. Wow. Here we go. Here we go. Let's use some curly maple. So this is kind of a fun one. I'm going to grab a block plane and a regular, not that one. Let's grab this one. I'm going to grab my low angle jack. Oh, but that's curly maple. We'll do it. And so in this case, let me set up this camera on here. I'm going to put this on here, and I'm just going to get close to 45. Let's make that cut a little bit deeper. And I'm not getting right to the corner. I'm not getting down here. I'm just eyeballing where 45 is. Should we get a little bit heavier cutting plane? What are you at right now? Ooh, yeah, you'll do. Plus it's a higher angle, so I get a smoother cut on it. And if I was really wanting to be precise, I'd actually come in with a marking gauge, and I would mark this thickness down this depth. And I know I can go to that line and that line. So what I want to do here is grab my my unsquare, or my miter square. I'm going to take this piece and put it on here, and I'm going to see how close am I. Where do I need to take off more material? Where do I need to take off a little less? And right there, I am almost dead on 45. Here, it's leaned a little bit that way. And back here, it's leaned that way a lot. So what that tells me is I'm going to start over here where it's leaning. I'm just going to do a few passes here. I'm getting close to that corner. And we can come into this again, and we can check it. Okay, tapering back there. Okay, I'm at the same angle all the way along this, but I don't know if you guys can see that. it's lower than 45 degrees. So in other words, the plane is running at this angle. I need it to be running at about this angle. So I'm going to take it and I'm just going to tip it back. I'm going to put my finger here on the edge. And this finger over here is actually riding on it and pushing it away, putting a little bit of an angle on there. Just going to do a couple passes here. Let's check it again. A couple more. Check it again. Yeah, we're getting a lot closer there now. And I'm just going to work it back and forth until I get it right where I want it to be. And again, if I needed it to be really, really precise and really, really careful, I would draw the line down the thickness of this board and just go until I touch both those lines. There's something about doing it freehand that I really enjoy. There we go. 45 degrees there. 45 degrees there. Right in the corner. And so that's what I would do. I like to try and find fun ways, and I love to do things freehand. And so that's what kind of intrigues me. Let's see, what's the next question? Sorry, if I'm missing any questions, put them in there again. Let's see, Zachary Howard, I think that's the next one. I may have missed these. I miss my wife. She's so good. Don't tell her I said that, though. Let's see. I'm a junior in high school, and I'm wondering how I might make a living working with hand tools. Any recommendations on tips? This is too subjective a question to answer. Is this too subjective a question to answer? Okay, first off, making a living just using hand tools is incredibly difficult. You are going to spend more time on the pieces. And that means you have to spend more on them. And right off the bat, you are not going to be able to say, this was made completely by hand tools, and it's not going to increase the price that much because you don't have a name backing it up. You don't have a brand that you've built that says quality work. And so going back to the question I had a little bit ago, you've got to build that brand up. So yes, you can do it. I know a few people who do just hand tool woodworking and sell it. Very, very few. Most people do the majority of the work with power tools and then do all of the final joinery and the detail work with hand tools. But yeah, it's not easy. So what you end up doing is you make a piece and you try to sell that piece, and then you try to build the word of mouth on top of it. And you're going to make a half dozen to a dozen pieces before you start getting a sale from something else, and you're not going to be making anything worth your time, especially if you're doing it with all hand tools, until you build up that piece. Facebook Marketplace is really, really good for getting things out, especially for furniture and things that aren't as easy to ship. Warren Munn, did you use espresso as the stain? No, it was a Minwax oil stain called espresso. Can I steam, let's see, this is Ariel Heller. Can I steam bend dense woods like ebony and purple heart using glued veneers? Need more detail before I get steam coming out my ears. Usually the harder the wood, the more brittle it is, and it's especially true for really hard things like ebony and purple heart. They are not easy for steaming. Often, let me get this on here. Often you're going to want to do bent lamination instead of actually steaming. And so in that case, you just cut it thin as you need to get the wrap. But even in that case, with some of those hard brittle woods, you'd be like 2 foot in diameter is a pretty tight circle. And they'd have to be like veneer size thicknesses to get that rotation. So it can be done, though it's not easy. Yes, you can steam bend them and you can get a little bit in them, but you're not going to get that much. And especially woods that are ring porous, they steam bend really well, because when you're steam bending, you're not actually stretching the wood, you're crushing everything on the inside of the curve. And so that wood has to have some space for it to go and crush. It's kind of like trying to crush a full soda can. If you try and crush a full soda can, you really can't. There's nowhere for that aluminum to go. Or if you take the soda out, now you can crush it pretty easily. And so really hard, dense woods don't have any place for that wood to go inside and crush. So, yeah. Oh, we got a super chat. Sorry, man. Our cram. Thank you for the demo on the curly maple. I really enjoy your comment. Well, thanks, man. Yeah, glad I could help you out with that. What's a good substitute for gopher wood? Yeah, what is gopher wood? There's a lot of fun myths and legends and stories about what wood did Noah use to build the ark. He used gopher wood. Well, of course he used gopher wood. The flood killed all the gopher wood trees, so we don't have it anymore. The most common thing put for it is white oak. White oak is a, but honestly I have no idea. White oak is a really good general maritime lumber. Good rot resistance, great for water absorption. It has a great expansion and contraction rate. It just has a lot of things that work out really, really well for wood, for boats. Thoughts on wood density for spokeshaves, making the Veritas spokeshave kit and have some very dense, catalogs. Do you prefer rosewood spokeshaves you've made, or would you like something? Yeah, dense and hard is best when working with a spokeshave, because you have a very small surface in front of that the spokeshave is riding on, and so it wears out very, very quickly. So having something that is very dense and wear resistant is incredibly important there. You need something that can not wear out. So rosewood's great for that. Purple heart. Hard maple is even actually a little bit soft for that. European beech. Really, really, really hard woods. Anything from Australia would be really good for that. But yeah, catalogs would be really good with that. One of these days I'll pronounce that one correctly. Hey James, I bought a Stanley number 48 tongue and groove swing fence for $10. Nice. What size cutters will it take? It depends on which ones you got, because there were a couple different sizes you could have ordered the 48. Usually, one of them is a 1/4 inch and the other one is a 1/2 inch or 3/8. And the 1/4 inch one cuts the groove. But what you want to do is measure, there's a spacer in between the two irons. Whatever that thickness is, that's what your smaller iron needs to be. And so whatever that thickness in between the iron is, the smaller iron needs to match that, because that thickness in between is what makes the tongue. And the smaller iron is what makes the groove. And so you want the smaller iron, the groove, to be the same size as the tongue so they fit together. The other one can be as big as it wants. And so a lot of times they were sold with 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch irons. And the reason being is you can make the tongue and groove off center of the board. There's no reason for them to be dead center. And so if you're working on a 3/4 inch wide board, then you can have 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch. But you can also take it over to a 1 inch board and have 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch. And they still work fine as long as your reference surface is still on the same side of the board. So yeah, usually it was 1/4 inch and 1/2 inch. But measure that thickness, and that's the important one. The other one, the larger one, you can make whatever size you want. Sorry, just catching up with this. We got time for a couple more on here, so if I don't get to your question, I'm sorry. Oh, we got a super chat on here. Watching with my son Isaac. Yours is favorite woodworker. Well, thank you, man. And would love it if you said hi. Oh, hi, Isaac. Thanks for the super chat. Yeah, I'll have to see if Sarah can get back on here and give a few mom jokes that have been missing, because I don't keep a list of jokes with me. But if you have a particular question, throw it in and I'll try and get it. I've been looking to buy a cheap plane to do most of the work as I'm starting to get into woodworking. Any recommendations? Let's see. Illinois Guitar Pickin? Illinois Guitar Pickin. I like that one. Generally, when it comes to planes, you get what you expect. You get what you pay for. And so if you are buying a cheap new plane, you're going to run into problems. And you can make any plane work. You can take a cheap Harbor Freight plane and make good shavings with it, but it's not going to hold its settings, and it's going to be fiddly, and it's going to be annoying. There's lots of things that just get in the way. Ooh, sounds like she's coming back. The cheapest new one that I generally suggest is from Tay Tools. And that's one I have on my page of suggested tools on my website. But even there, you're probably going to do some modifications to get up and running again. You're going in? Okay. I love you. Have fun. All right. I guess she's not coming back, so it's just me. Where was that? Cheap planes. Usually the most cost affordable way to get into it is to get an antique tool that needs a little bit of work, clean it up, get rid of the rust, sharpen the iron, put it back to work, and you can get one of those for $5, $10, $15, $20, especially at MWTCA meets. Now it depends on where you are. If you're out on the West Coast, it's going to be a lot more than that. But if you're in the Midwest or on the East Coast, you can usually find those. And it's amazing what you can get. You can get a tool that will last you for a lifetime. So, yeah, that's usually the direction I go if you're looking for cost effectiveness. Check out my website, handtoolfinder.com. On there I have a list of every known place I know of to buy tools, collecting associations and tool sales, and a list of events on there. That's the place to go. Let's see, I got time for one or two more. Billy Holcomb, what's a good substitute for... Oh, sorry, read that one again. Do you have a video for Japanning? I do not have a specific video for Japanning. However, if you want that, go look up Hand Tool Rescue. He has a video that is phenomenal. Really, really, really good on it. And, sorry, I gotta punch this in. Yeah, I've thought about doing my own video on Japanning, but just I can't improve on that, so I don't have any reason to. He does really good work on there. Tay Tools is a family-owned company. Stumpy Nubs doesn't directly work with them. Tay Tools is kind of becoming a great clearinghouse for hand tools, for new, affordably priced hand tools, not the really high-end quality stuff. And so a lot of the hand tool people often end up sending people to Tay Tools. Lots of good stuff on there. Cool. I think I've gotten those. So yeah, sorry this live didn't go quite the way we expected. My wife got called into work, so she's heading into the hospital now. Yeah, life is fun. You never know what's going to happen. So sorry if I didn't get to your question, but we'll try and do it next week. Next week we're going to be doing the next joint in the joinery window, which I don't remember what it is. But life has been really crazy right now. So looking forward to seeing many of you at Handworks. Or at the MWTCA National Meet coming up. So lots of fun on that. And if you are going to be at Handworks, we're going to be doing a meetup with Rex Kruger and myself at 3 p.m. At the Brew House there on Friday. So Friday the 1st at 3 p.m. Other than that, I think I'll do it for now. So until next time, have a wonderful day. Bye.